today. I'm going live in a couple of places. So I'm hoping that you can all see me and hear me. If anyone feels so generous as to pop into the comments and let me know that you can see and hear me, that'd be fabulous. Today, I thought it's winter and there's a lot of overcast, cloudy days. Here in the United States, I should say it's winter. The northern hemisphere, maybe it's more accurate. And we're having a lot of weather here in the United States, ugly weather. Now, I'll admit, I live in California, so sometimes it seems like the rest of the country. I watch the Today Show and Al Roker. I love him. Al Roker talks about the rain, the snow sweeping the country. And then there's California. It's like we're just over here kind of hiding. We have spring flowers and sunshine. But I know we're not the norm. So I thought it was a good time to talk about overcast days. Because a lot of us are having those right now. But it's also something that happens when we travel, right? I think it's one of the most common questions I get. What do I do when the weather is ugly? So let's talk about that today. What do you do to create beautiful photos even when it's overcast? Because you can. It's possible. When we travel, we imagine, like in our mind, right? When you're picturing the scene of where you're going to be, France, Italy, New Zealand, you think sunny, fluffy white clouds, blue skies, gorgeous. And then you get there and it looks a little more like this. And it's so disappointing because your mind had created these photos that you were going to create. And you think, I'm not going to be able to do that. I have 4 tips that I'm going to share with you today. You know, what do we do about it when it's ugly out? Well, the first thing to think about in general, I talk about mindset a lot here because I think it's the underlying issue, concept that can change everything about our world. It's how we think about it, right? We can't change the weather, but we can change how we think about it. Instead of being disappointed, try to change our entire itinerary, we can embrace it and say, you know what? It's part of the story of this trip, of this adventure. So let's get up there and tell it. So let's talk about those tips I told you about. I have 4 that we're going to talk about today for creating those beautiful photos, even when the skies aren't pretty and blue. So it's all about perception, right? They can still be pretty. They're just not what we think of as pretty. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? What we consider pretty. People, skies, photos. We're going to shave off all of that perception and we're going to dive in here. All right. The first tip is to expose for the background. And you feel like you're overexposing a little bit. This is different because usually I tell you to expose for the subject, the darkest areas. Because you want to expose for the subject to get it just the way that you want. But in this case, you're thinking about the sky. So you're exposing for the sky. And you want to overexpose just a little bit, right? So if this is confusing to you, think of it this way. When the sun is super bright, you want to underexpose a little bit so that your subject is well exposed or even a little underexposed, because you want to preserve all the details, including in the sky. All right, so we're going to go back in time to a day when it was bright and sunny and blue sky. You want to preserve the clouds, the blue, so you want to underexpose a little bit so you don't blow out the details and lose them. Okay, in this situation, you want to expose in a way that you're going to get rid of the details of the sky. Because think of it this way. It's kind of gray. It's flat. There aren't clouds, or there's so many clouds, it's just one solid color. So the technique here is we're going to overexpose just a smidge so that the background becomes white. All right? So we're not trying to maintain the details of the sky like we do when the sky's pretty and underexpose a little bit. We're going to go the other direction and maybe even overexpose a little bit so that we blow out the sky. I've talked about that blowout thing before. It's not like the hair blowout, not straightening. When you blow something out, that means it's so bright the details are lost and you can't bring them back. But in this case, when the sky is blown out and bright, it just becomes a white background. So the sky just disappears. And if you see that on the left, this is in Kufstein, Austria. And it was very overcast, but it was this beautiful castle kind of going up the hill. So what I did is I overexposed it a bit, and even when I process, I brighten up the sky even more. Because if it's kind of dreary, then it can be distracting. Where now it just disappears. And what do you think? What do you look at when you see that castle now? What do you see? Well, you probably see the green, the layers of the castle going up, and your eye kind of starts at the bottom and goes up to the top, but you have this background that just disappears. Over on the right, this is in Tokyo, and it's another day where it was just gray and overcast, but by brightening up the sky, it now becomes a neutral background. So no distractions, it's all about the subject. Okay, so that's the first technique. Overexpose a little bit and just blow that sky out and let it become a white background. Okay, the next tip, focus on the details. When you have overcast, those clouds are acting like this beautiful, lovely filter that the light's coming in. So instead of this really bright in some areas and really dark shadows in other areas, contrasty light. You like the way I describe with my hands what contrasty light looks like? I don't know. I talk with my hands a lot, and sometimes I think that doesn't even make sense what I'm doing. They just have a mind of their own. Okay, back to it. You get this contrasty light, and it's hard to get in there and capture some details that you want because you have this kind of break of bright, dark. How do you expose? It gets complicated. Not complicated now. You get these kind of soft, even light. And that can be beautiful for the details. Like this park in Lyon, France, on the left, these flowers were so beautiful. And because of this soft, filtered, cloudy day, that's the photo I could get. And on the right, this one is in Gruyere, Switzerland, and also an overcast day, but you capture all these details without the light interfering, because sometimes bright light can interfere and make your photos not so good. Now, number 3, change your perspective. And instead of thinking about your subject in a bright, sunny, tourist destination kind of way, again, it's part of your story. It's gloomy, cloudy. Think of it from a moody perspective. I saw one example of this. Bonnie, I think her name is Catan. I can't remember her last name, but she had a photo of the Eiffel Tower. And we all go to the Eiffel Tower and we want this beautiful, sunny, people walking around. Didn't happen. It was kind of cloudy, the clouds were low. So she got low and caught pigeons taking off. So it's like this darkish, moody, pigeons flying through the foreground, and it's a really cool, kind of creepy photo. So change your mindset and think about, how can I capture this, but in a different way? This is Chateau Chenonceau in the Loire Valley of France, and it was Not a beautiful day, but those big old castles kind of have a tendency towards creepy anyway. So I just let that be the narrative when I told this story. It's a creepy old chateau. You could also get it as a stately, beautiful one, but not that day. And then this is New York City with those ominous clouds. And I have a lot of photos of New York City because we lived there for a while, but this one is really one of my favorites because it just, I don't know, that city is vibrant and fun and lively, but it's also hard and dark in some ways. And this captures that personality of the city. So change your perspective and just get the gloom in there. And the fourth tip that I have for you, I know it sounds a little weird, but I'm not making this up. Wait until sunset because yes, the blue hour is real. I mentioned this before, so those of you who hear me talk a lot are thinking, here we go with the blue hour. But I first heard about it in a photography workshop and thought, wait a minute, I've been on this planet quite a few years. If there was this magical blue hour, I would know about it. So I took my tripod out at night, and guess what? It's real. I don't know if I was just busy drinking wine or how I missed this blue hour, but it's after sunset, the next hour is when this kind of happens. And one of the magical aspects of the blue hour is even when it's cloudy during the day, once the sun goes down, that sky turns this beautiful cobalt shade of blue. I mean, who knew? Who knew? It might not happen every single day, every single location, but this was in Annecy, France, and it was honestly one of the most beautiful towns I saw in France. And yet, we got up early, sunrise, I had my tripod out, kind of a bummer because it was cloudy, overcast, so not a beautiful sunrise. And the photos I took during the day, I got some good detail photos, but not the beautiful landscapes that you want to see with sunny skies. So I thought, let's try the blue hour and see what happens. And this is what happened. The other thing that can happen with sunset, I'm not sure this exactly qualifies, this doesn't really qualify as a blue hour because it's still going down, the sun is still setting. It was an overcast and cloudy, windy, cold day in London. I think you get a lot of those days in London, am I right? And I was ready to go to dinner. I was cold, I don't like to be cold. I had my tripod set up right in the spot I wanted. And I almost gave up here because I thought the sky is just cloudy and gray and ugly and it's not going to happen. But as soon as that sun hit the horizon, it lit those clouds up in a way I really was not expecting. So patience or just kind of shifting. I was going to take this photo early, let me try it late, if you have that flexibility in your schedule. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. If you don't, you kind of just have to let it go. If you're there just to take the photos, just to get the photo and can rearrange your schedule, then try evening. But if you're there to experience the place and the photos are to capture that experience, then capture the experience. It might not be this sunset shot. It might be the morning overcast, kind of creepy, just expose the best you can. And I'll show you next week how to edit some of these photos because sometimes the light is so low, it's kind of hard to get what you want. And there's more drama there that you see than sometimes ends up in your photos, right? I mean, that certainly happens to me. This scene in particular, what I saw, I was so excited. And it took a while, right? It took a while. I'm sitting there and the sun goes down and you think, is this it? Maybe this is it. And then it happens. And you think, oh, no, this is it. I get my photos back though, and I think, not like I remembered. So sometimes, most times, all the time, you can help with your edits just get that photo back to what you remembered, and especially on cloudy days. They just have a tendency to be a little flat, a little dull, and they need a little help. Okay. So I'm curious, in the comments, if you watch this later, let me know, have you struggled with cloudy days before? Are you disappointed when you go on vacation and the days are cloudy? Or is it sometimes a relief from the heat or the sun, that kind of thing? I used to be very disappointed, and I still can get that way because I, in my mind, have all these photos I want. But now I do see it as sometimes a little bit of a break from the sun and the heat. All right. Here are the resources and updates that I provide you every week. We get to this slide. It's a reminder of all the stuff we talked about. This particular subject is all written out on a lovely blog post, bephotofluent.com/blog/cloudy-days. Don't forget to join the PhotoFluent Travelers Facebook group. We're having a challenge this month. Every month we have a challenge, and this month is movement. And it's been really fun to see how people interpret that. That's what I love about these challenges, because you can throw out a word, throw out a concept. Everybody interprets it very differently. Some people have this blurred movement. Some people freeze it, but you know that it was moving. It's a waterfall or something like that. So we're having some great fun in there. Come and join us to participate. And if you are interested in editing, you look at your photos and think, they need something, but I don't know exactly what. That's some of the feedback I was getting. Well, I look at my photos, but I don't even know where to start. I don't know what they need. I remember being there. Trust me. I look at them and think, I want them to be better. But what does that mean? So I decided to start a photo editing coaching program because I think that's the best way to help you figure that out. So we're going to get in Lightroom together and look at your photos. And I'm going to help you walk through what do they need and how do we get them to where you want them to be. So figuring out what's missing is the first step, and then what tools will help you get to the end result. So we're going to do that together. And since it's a new offering, I have an introductory price, and I have a few spots left. I was giving out 5 spots. I might have upped that a little bit because I don't want to leave anybody out. So until next week, we have intro pricing. If you have questions, leave them in the comments, DM me, but I'll leave the link so you can go check out some of the details and sign up if you're interested. Well, I hope you're having a lovely day. If you're in Texas, I'm very sorry for what you all are going through down there, and I hope they get that resolved very soon. If you're not familiar, a lot of Texans are out of power. A lot of Texans are out of power, and it's very, very cold down there. So I feel for you, and I hope that they can resolve that soon. So I'm sending best wishes to everyone around the world that is going through. We're all going through a lot, and then I think we're going through a lot as a globe, and then when you add on something else on top of it, it just makes it especially hard. So my heart goes out to everyone that's really struggling right now. So do the best you can. And I know it sounds superficial sometimes to say keep creating through all of this, but I do believe that by finding something inside us that brings us joy, like creating, like getting your camera out, trying some new things, it can be a bright spot in a dark place sometimes. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you very soon.